inside into the world of Lady Till's Curios.
Welcome to Lady Teal's Curios. I'm your host, Lady Teal. When I first started this podcast, one of my primary goals was to connect with as many interesting and unique people that I possibly could. And the main reason for this was because I really wanted to learn more about the world around us. One of the best ways that you can do this is by listening to others' experiences and stories. Once we hit the road full time, it became incredibly difficult to record online sessions. And this was due to a variety of reasons. We were constantly figuring out if we had stable internet. We were having our schedule change all the time. And it really took us a good solid year to narrow down what we needed as far as internet goes, and then kind of get a somewhat routine-ish schedule in place. So I'm happy to announce that interviews are coming back. And this is so exciting because we finally figured out our internet situation. I've finally got somewhat of a schedule going on, and this means that I can actually get people back on the show who are incredibly fascinating. And I think going forward, this is going to become an amazing community. In tonight's episode, we are bringing back the interviews, and I will be speaking with Jacob Fons, an antique collector who picked up a couple of items and had some unique experiences with these items. I will include the Zoom link video that's going to be on YouTube in the show notes. So if you would like to watch the Zoom conversation, you are more than welcome to. I will say still, because we are out in the middle of nowhere a lot of times, and while I have stable internet for recording audio, sometimes the video does get a little laggy. So there are a few parts that it's just my side. His side was perfect. But there are just like a couple of parts, but I'm sure you can look past them and really enjoy the conversation that we had. So if you are listening to the episode via podcast, then you will want to be sure to check out the Facebook, Instagram, maybe even Twitter. If I remember it, I am so bad about Twitter, but check out one of the socials for pictures regarding the story that we will be discussing. That way you have kind of an idea of what we're talking about on the show. So before we get into the conversation with Jacob, let's check out what's going on in the world in the Wacky and Weird news department, shall we? In the past, we've talked about food competitions and eating an insane amount of food. And this week's first piece of news comes from Philadelphia and should be no stranger to my audience because we love food and we love hearing about people doing strange things with food. So Renee Kobitri, owner of the Rim Cafe, assembled a team of chefs to construct a ginormous ginormous cheese steak. I wish it was a cheesecake, but a cheese steak also sounds very delicious. So this cheese steak was 510 feet long. Kobitri was celebrating his birthday and he said, I want to make it big, make a big party for everyone. So why not bring everyone together and have a couple thousand people? Yeah, that sounds like an awesome time. I wish I had been there. The 510-foot cheesesteak had multiple varieties on it. It had ravioli, marinara, and there was a Spanish cheesesteak. The team actually had a goal of creating a 480-foot cheesesteak. However, they beat their goal, and so now they are submitting this sandwich, this 510-foot sandwich, to the Guinness World Records to see if it broke any records. But even if it's not accepted, Kobitri said Next one is going to be more crazy. Get ready, baby. Our next piece of news comes from South Africa. A pastor by the name of Christ Penelope claims he has the power to heal people by farting on them. Yes, you heard me correctly. I would agree. This is all a bit unorthodox, but this probably isn't the weirdest thing that I've ever heard, especially regarding like religious practices. When people get into certain religious practices, there's always something a little out there. So when I first heard about this, I was like, surely people recognize the whole unclean factor, because when you fart, the reason that you are smelling the smell is because there's actual particles going through the air. So I read the headline of the article and I thought to myself, this is just him trying to create some sort of, I don't know, like he's just trying to create a name for himself by doing something radical. But many people are lining up to get healed by him farting near or on your face. In fact, there is about a 2-month wait. 2 months. There are people out there waiting 2 months to get farted on. So some of his followers even collect his farts in containers so that they can use them later on. So according to the pastor, farting near the person's nose is key to allowing the healing power to enter the body and do its work. I think for me, I will pass on this gas. In our next piece, this comes all the way from Barcelona. A 39-year-old man was recently found dead inside the leg of a dinosaur statue. A man and his son noticed a foul odor coming from the statue. Police do not suspect foul play, and the media reported that the man probably just dropped his phone in the sculpture, went to try to get it, got stuck, and he was unable to call for help because of the way that he was like wedged into the statue. So this is a very unfortunate case. And the reason I'm sharing it is because when I think about people dying and like the many different ways that people can die, this was definitely not something that I ever thought of. I never thought, you could just die one day reaching for your phone in a statue. It's crazy. It's so crazy. I also, when I first read this headline, I thought for sure somebody dumped him there. But then as the story unfolded, I learned that it was just a series of unfortunate events. So our last piece of news ends on a bit of a lighter note. If you're on TikTok, you may have come across this story already, but this was such a solid revenge story. I just had to share it. So a woman found out that her boyfriend was cheating on her. The woman, her name is Thea Loveridge, said after she gave birth to her son, she discovered that her husband was cheating on her with his ex-girlfriend. So shortly after she discovered all this drama, the husband then went to jail. And while he was in jail, the ex-girlfriend started messaging him like, where are you? Why aren't you talking to me? What's going on? And so Thea had a grand idea. Instead of truthfully telling the ex-girlfriend that, oh, he's in jail, she decides to tell her that he is dead. And then not only does she tell her that he's dead, she takes it a step further. This is where it gets good. Thea and her sister created an elaborate prank that has gone on for 3 years. So this revenge prank started with her telling the ex-girlfriend that he was dead. Then they actually had a funeral service and she took photos of the funeral service. She continues to post tributes on her Facebook and social media pages saying things like, on this day, my husband passed away and I miss him so. He was the best husband a girl could ever have. When obviously he wasn't that great of a person. So apparently it's been 3 years and the ex-girlfriend still has no idea, which the video on TikTok has gotten well over 1 million views. So I'm not sure, since this article was posted and since the story on TikTok has gone viral, I'm wondering if the ex-girlfriend has found out now. But still, 3 years, and she had no idea that he was in jail and not dead. So talk about a long con. That's it for this week's Wacky and Weird. If there's anything going on in your area, be sure to hit me up on the social media channels. I love hearing stories about the unusual, the strange, or the just plain weird, especially coming from my listeners, and I'll be sure to share it with everybody else. Tonight, you will hear from Jacob Fons, an antique collector who stumbled across 2 unique items and had some peculiar experiences surrounding these items. I met Jacob through one of the Oddities and Curiosities groups that is on Facebook. We connected, we had this great conversation that you will shortly hear. And this episode is actually going to be a 2-parter, and I'm laughing because I do not want to give anything else away, but I do want to say that I am now in possession of one of the items that he is going to be discussing. That's all I'm going to say on this episode. The next episode, we'll talk about my thoughts on the item. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So without giving anything else away, let's talk to Jacob Fons.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jacob Fons. I am very excited to be on and to speak with you. I live in the Midwest. I am in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And, I'll tell you, the last couple months have been interesting. Let's just put it that way. And I'll leave it at that for now.
So have you always been a collector of like oddities and antiques, or is this something new that you've gotten into?
Yeah, great question. So I've really gotten into antiques. When my grandparents passed away, they left quite a few big, gorgeous convex mirrors and tabernacle mirrors and that kind of stuff. And they always had very cool things like that. And when they passed away years ago, a lot of it was left to myself. So I really started doing research on the items and getting into, well, what is this? Oh my gosh, it's over 150 years old. It's worth this much. Not that, was out selling them, but it was very cool stuff. And so anytime I'm at I definitely look for sales like that, any rummage sale, any antique store, any Goodwills or secondhand shops. I'm always keeping an eye out for that miraculous, that special item that you just have to take home with you. I think I found a couple, and now I'm now I'm not sure I wanted them here. So
well, let's talk about the first item. So to give everybody a little bit of a backstory, we're in this Facebook group that's a oddities, antiques, buy, sell, trade kind of group. And I saw your post, and it was of a Mary Magdalene sculpture, right?
Correct. Yep. Made out of a very light wood. I have it here. I'm sure I can send you more pics. I don't know, that kind of stuff, but I did bring it. I've got it sitting right here. It is, when I saw it, I said, oh my gosh, this is old. This is old, this is something that would look really kind of cool in my apartment. At the bottom, I don't read Spanish, but it says the Immaculate Conception, or a part of, the Madonna, if you will. There's some other writing in there saying I could make out made in Mexico. It's like I said, it's definitely old. Paint is wearing off. It's not chipping, but this thing weighs a pound. I mean, it's really that light. It's really that light. And so when I saw it, so that's what we have here. And I saw it at a secondhand shop. And I said, I've got to have that. So I bought it, brought it home, put it up, thought it was pretty neat, thought it kind of went with the musical instruments that I have and the artistic feel that I have going on here, trying to have. And then things started happening.
Oh, what kind of things?
So it started with, and this is with, both my items were kind of bought around the same time. And we'll talk about that second item in a sec. But that first item, the Mother Mary, the Madonna that I have here, started just seeing lots of things out of the corner of my eyes. Some people call them shadow people. Some people, just call it, just shadows. But they would move across the room, and I don't freak out very easily. I won't lie to you. I should have probably told you this when we first started. Before this, I'm not even really a firm believer. Okay, no, that's no joke. I love all the haunted shows. I love watching. I've gone on haunted ghost tours, and we've gotten in the car. I've been to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, to see the Mothman and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really that firm a believer until after all this. So anyways, so I started seeing shadow people or shadows in my apartment, and it kind of creeped me out. I'm like, probably the wind, it's probably the curtain, right? Being real down to earth and real scientific, if you will. Probably whatever, just a car driving by. Well, I'm on the third floor, so that's probably not happening. But then I'd lay on the couch, and I would see them literally slowly go across my bedroom, through my bedroom. And it wasn't against the wall. It wasn't by the window. It was right at the door.
Wow.
So that really freaked me out. And I won't lie to you, I left a few times. I left my apartment, went over to a friend's and said, yeah, hi, how you doing? I just, just wanted to see how you were, seeing how you were doing. When really, I was pretty afraid. I wanted to get out of this place.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, everything exploded. One day, and all three events happened within 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
And it was a couple days after that I was standing, at my kitchen sink. So my back is to the cabinets, and all of a sudden a frying pan comes flying out of one of the cabinets and slams against the wall. It was thrown hard. Okay, in my head, I jumped. I'm like, all right, I probably set it in improperly, and it probably was just on a tilt. But as it flew out, the door stayed open then. So the cabinet door's open, and you could count it probably 3, 4, 5 seconds long. It's there. It's not wobbling. It's not, and then it slammed shut with force. It slammed shut with force. And I jumped again, and I said to myself, well, that's not normal. That really kind of creeped me out. And so that was the first one. So I picked the pan up, put it away. And that was it. So I fell asleep on the couch that night. I had my cell phone off. It was charging, but it was turned off. I just want to make clear on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know the witching hour, right? 3 a.m., 3:15. It was between 3 and 3:15 a.m. There was talking. There was a conversation going on. And I said, oh, I got real nervous. It's who the bleep is at my front door? Who is standing having a conversation I started getting a little irate, right? So I got up, checked the door. Well, there's nobody there. And I'm like, where is this? Where are these two voices? It was a male voice and a female voice. Where are these coming from? And I sat back down on the couch, wide awake, and realized it was coming from my cell phone. So I said, oh my gosh, did I dial somebody in my sleep? And somebody's like, hey, Jake, what are you calling me for? But now again, the phone was turned off. It was off because I was charging it. And I wasn't expecting many calls at 3 a.m. And so there was a conversation going on between a man and a woman. All I could make out from the gentleman was he sounded very either drunk. He sounded very drunk. He sounded kind of out of it. How about that? Mm-hmm. And the woman kept asking, please help me. Please come help me. I need your help. Please come help me. And he's babbling a drunken nonsense. And she just keeps begging for help. And I'm like, is she asking me for help? What is going on here? I really got nervous and scared. And I got concerned. Mm-hmm. That, oh my gosh, am I hearing some violent crime taking place? But then I started thinking, well, my phone's turned off. So I'm not an IT guru, but I'm it's not that it was on and maybe it was catching reception or something like that of somebody else. And it went on for about 15 minutes. It went on for about 15 minutes long, and it was about 3:20, 3:25. There wasn't all right, well, I'm sorry, goodbye. It was just over. And I mean, I could hear them crystal clear. I heard them talking word for word. He was a little, like I said, sounded a little drunk. But all she kept saying was, please help me. Please come help me. Please help me. I need your help. And that really kind of freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, understandably, especially at that time of night and everything.
Until the next day, I think I was telling my friends, or maybe even my oldest son, who's 17, telling them the story. And then somebody said, you do know that is a specific time of night that can get a little eerie, if you will, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they mentioned it. I said, and again, I love all the haunted shows and all that stuff. I have all the books and all that readings. And I said, oh gosh, I never even thought about it. So yeah, and especially at that time, but I'll tell you, it was crystal clear. It wasn't some, again, with those haunted shows, you hear on the voice box or whatever, oh, it says this. And you're like, I didn't hear anything. It wasn't like that. It was crystal clear. And mm-hmm. The lady for 15 minutes kept asking for help. And that did me, and that scared me.
That would, I'm sure, scare anybody experiencing that.
Yeah. And like you said, especially at that time, I mean, I woke up, obviously I was asleep. And if the phone was on charging, maybe I'd say there was some glitch, maybe I caught somebody's signal, but it was off. And I don't know. I mean, it was turned off charging. So I turned it back on, after the 15 minutes, because I just stood, I sat there just listening, like, what the heck is happening here? This is the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to me. And when it stopped, I realized that, yeah, it is turned off. It is turned off, and turned it back on. And that was it. It was over.
That's crazy. So you had the pan fly out, and then you heard these voices, and then there was a third thing that happened, right?
Yes, there was. So hours later, I was up showering, getting ready for work. Hopped in the shower, not even paying attention. And I see these five scratches within the inner on my thigh, on my thigh. And these were deep scratches. There were dry. It was dried blood. And so I said, man, I must have gotten so nervous last night, scratched myself in my sleep. Right, one of those things. Again, I'm trying to be realistic. I'm trying to make sense of it all. Right now, my mind's really trying to go, Jacob, you might have just spent the last however many years being wrong about not believing in these things. And maybe I am wrong. And so there were these 5 scratches. I don't have nails, I mean, I don't have sharp nails. Mm-hmm. They're trim, they're short. I can scratch myself right now real hard and I don't get any marks. But again, I want to make clear, and this is something that I tell people, is that this wasn't like, again, those ghost shows that you see a little red welt. I don't know if you saw the pictures or not, but these were 5 very deep scratches, and they were dried with blood. And so I got out of the shower, and I said, what is this? So just out of curiosity, I matched my hand up to the scratches. I wanted to see, okay, let me put my left hand up. It was on my left leg. So I put my left hand up. It's not even close to fitting. My fingers couldn't stretch that far. I couldn't have done it with that hand. Let me try my right hand. Tried it. That didn't fit either. And I'm talking not even close. I'm not just talking about a couple centimeters off. I'm talking about not even being close to fitting the 5 scratches. And it didn't fit. I still have, this was months ago. I still have the scars from those scratches. That's how deep they were. So again, it wasn't just a light little welt. They weren't dripping with blood down my leg or anything like that, but they were dried blood. And I'll tell you, after that, I said, I'm really not feeling good. I mean, I'm really nervous. I'm concerned. And all these 3 things happened within a 24-hour period.
Now, you mentioned you have kids too. Were they around for any of this?
Oh, my kids? No, they were not. No, they were not. But kids are here about half the time, the time. But they will not, they're very nervous coming here. I've had other things happen. I've had the doors slam open. I was in the kitchen cooking and the kids are on the couch. All of a sudden they all come running in the kitchen. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Wrestling, what happened? And like, Dad, door's open. I said, what do you mean? They said the door just completely slammed open. And I go look and it was closed and it was locked. I always lock the doors when I close them, and they don't like the statue here. They don't like the statue. They don't like the stroller, the other item that I have, and they're not that. Sorry about that. And
You're
they're
good.
not that. And they're not that. They're nervous about coming over. They'll say, is the statue still out? Do you still have that? Do you still have the pram, the little stroller, antique stroller? And I'll go, I do. And like, well, we're kind of busy tonight, Dad. Okay.
They know better now.
better. And I even had a medium come over to the house. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. After the statue, after all these things happened, a lot of people were getting kind of concerned for me, and my well-being and my mental health as well. I can, really kick in, depression or anxiety, right? Those kinds of things. When the medium was walking up to my house, walking past my house, she said, boy, that house really makes me uncomfortable. And I said, well, that's my house. And she said, okay, let's go in, let's do this. She was very nervous, and I'm like, oh, this is not a good start, right? This is just not what I was hoping for. I'm hoping for her to come in and go, Jake, you just have a old piece of wood that somebody painted and carved, right?
Right.
When she gets in, she lasts maybe 5 minutes. I show her the statue. She walks around the house. She eyes up the statue. She looks at it. She looks at the little stroller that I have. Walks around the apartment and says, and she kept, like rubbing her eyes and saying, I'm really getting lightheaded and I'm really getting a really bad migraine, really bad headache. And then again, 5 minutes later, I really got to go. I got to leave. And so she said, let's chat outside. I'm thinking to myself, I mean, that's fine. Okay. We can chat inside as well. But she wanted to go outside. So we talked outside. And then she came and she talked about that she just didn't feel comfortable. She didn't feel safe up here. And later she dropped off a couple items for me, like crystals, sage. Is it alto wood or alto? I don't know, something to like get the evil spirits out, something to bring good spirits in. Again, I'm new to all this stuff, right? And so I have the statue surrounded by crystals, candles, white candles, the wood, the sage, and a couple other little things that have been given to me to ward off evil spirits, I guess. And so I have all those surrounding it. And the last thing is that it's facing forward, all these surrounding it, on a shelf. Nobody touches it. Nobody goes by it. Believe me, the kids don't even want to look at it, right? And they're older kids, so they're not younger, grabbing things, playing with stuff. I was sitting here just the other night and a couple nights ago, and I'm sitting and I just told my kids this yesterday, that she's sideways now. She's facing sideways. I touched her. I don't touch it. The kids don't touch it. They don't play basketball and hit the shelf. It's a small apartment. We do our stuff outside. It has not been touched. And I, when I'm sitting on the couch, watch TV or whatever, I'll take a peek at it and it's facing forward. A couple nights ago, I looked, it was facing sideways. Everything was still around it, but it was facing sideways. And that's when I finally decided that I've got to get rid of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it might have moved on its own.
Yeah, well, and that's it. Again, the kids once again won't even go by that shelf. But it's like a bookshelf. That's where I have it on, with the crystals and candles and sage and everything surrounding it. But it didn't get bumped, and it is a light piece of wood, but to bump it, I don't know how it turned sideways. It was completely sideways. And again, that was just a few nights ago. And then I said, you know what? Even all the stuff that everybody was nice enough to help me out with and give me to try to help with these entities, spirits, situations, what have you. I'm creeped. I'm creeped out. I'm just creeped out.
So did the medium say anything? Like, was she able to pick up anything from like its energy? Did she say like if there was something attached to it, or was she able to like pinpoint anything?
All she said, and again, she was not here long, that she said that she didn't like that statue. My stroller that we can talk about in a second if you want to, She didn't seem to really mind that. Now, besides, she thought it really looked neat and was old and cool. But the statue, she said she wasn't comfortable with the statue. Now, I should also tell you that the floor below me in my duplex, they're doing construction and redoing everything. They're doing the floors, they're gutting the place, and they're rebuilding. So again, just from watching all those haunted shows and stuff, I know that can sometimes cause things. But I got this months ago, before they started that construction, and immediately I started seeing things. So she suggested getting rid of it, is what she suggested. I mean, she said, get rid of it, open up the windows, use the sage, use the wood. She even gave me, which I never even really looked over, like a prayer to say while I was saging and doing those.
Right.
But I to be honest with you, the whole time that this is going on, I am nervous now. I am nervous, but still in the back of my stubborn mind, I'm thinking, all right, it can all be explained. Jacob, you just, settle down. It's nothing. But I got to tell you, there's something. And I am maybe not a firm believer, but there's something else there. There's something going on. And I would like my kids to come hang out and feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I'd like, obviously, I'd like for me not to see shadows anymore, because I see them frequently. I see them a couple times a week. And when it walks by your doorway, and I jump up and I book out of the house, and I think I'm a pretty strong, tough guy, right? But that scares the crap out of me, that I'm going over to a friend's house to hang out for dinner and invite myself over for dinner because I don't want to go back home.
Yeah, then there's something happening there for sure.
Yes.
Do you mind, if you're not comfortable with it, it's totally okay, but do you mind showing it on the camera right now?
Sure. So here, if we can see it, is, I don't know if that's too close or not. I don't know how.
That's perfect.
Okay. So, and again, this weighs maybe a pound. I was sitting here with the wood that the medium gave me.
Mm-hmm. The Palo Santo.
Yep, correct. And I'll tell you, it feels very, very, very similar. I don't know if the wood that they're used to, and it says made in Mexico, so I don't know what is common, but this is not in oak or a maple or what have you. This is not heavy. These weigh about the same. All right, this statue might be a little heavier, but it feels the same denseness. It feels the same. Now, I just, while I was sitting here before we started talking, it's very similar. Very similar.
Interesting.
So this is the statue. Now, I will say that when I bought it, there was, and here's the bottom. There was this tape just wrapped around the bottom. I figured somebody got it as a present or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The base, I started taking the tape off, and then feared that I didn't want to, peel the paint off or something.
Right.
Because I'm that this is an antique, and I'm not saying it's not, but it looks like the base is a little loose, so somebody either taped it. I would have just glued it, in my opinion, but I was just looking at it. It does come off without pulling paint off or anything like that. So just somebody. So that's it. That's her in all her glory.
Well, thank you for.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It looks a little creepy to me, but it looks cool.
It's definitely different than a lot of the Lady Immaculates that I've seen in the past. Like, I haven't ever seen one that looks quite like this.
Yeah, and if I recall, I did have a friend who spoke Spanish or could read. It says hand carved in Mexico, and there are a couple other things I don't recall. But it's so somebody made this. You know, well, obviously somebody made it, but you know, on their own, it could have just been you know, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely different. I've never seen anything like it either. You know, either.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. I know you have another item that you also had some interesting experience with.
Yes, I have, and I promise I won't take up as much time with that one.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
um, so a couple months ago, before I even got this statue, I was at a antique store. It was one of those, you know, 5 floors, and people kind of rented out a space and sold their stuff, and really neat, really, and tons of items. And I saw this little, you know, pram, this little baby stroller, this little antique made out of wood with a, you know, and leather, wooden leather with iron wheels. Probably stood about, I don't know, 2.5 feet tall. And my daughter, you know, she's 7 or 8. She was at the time. I'm like, oh, she'd love pushing this around the neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I love Halloween, kind of like the creepy stuff. And yes, would neighbors stare and go, well, that's kind of creepy. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And she would love it. And she did at first. But so I'm sitting there staring. I'm there with a friend of mine and my friend's son. And we're staring at the little the pram, I guess, the stroller. And I'm about 6 feet from it. And I go, man, that's really cool. So I turn my back to it and talk to her like, should I get it? You know, I think it was, you know, $40 or something. You know, not a lot, but enough that you think about it before you just snatch it up. And as we're talking, she's like, you know, Jacob, that's pretty cool. That'd look good in your apartment, right? I need to stop bringing cool things into my apartments, right? I need to stop. And all of a sudden, something hits me in my calf, in my leg. And I turn around, and it was the little stroller, and I said, and I was very confused. I know I was about, you know, 5-6 feet from it. All of a sudden, it just started rolling and hit me in the leg. I didn't see it because I turned my back, but I know it was 5 feet. So in my mind, again, okay, the floor's got to be uneven. Maybe a bus went by. Now, this was an old Catholic school building that they converted into 5 floors of antique stores. So these are the hard marble,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is solid. This isn't a warped wood where it could have just, the ball could have rolled on its own. And the wheels, they're old iron, but they're a little rusty. So it's not like it's not like a stroller that you buy at, you know, some kid store or an old Toys R Us or something. This is something that takes a little bit of pushing to move it. So it hit me in the leg. Of course, my cynical self says, oh, it's telling me it wants to come home with me. Of course. So now I've got to pick it up and buy it. And that wasn't such a smart move either, I don't think. Because when I brought it home, you know, some some things started happening. I wasn't seeing shadows yet. That was really the statue. But my, you know, I'd come home when I know I turned all the lights out, and I'd have 1 or 2 on. a couple lamps on. Well, that's kind of weird. At night, they'd start, kind of buzzing in and out, I guess, if you will. The light fading and then coming back up. And I'm like, okay, the bulbs are going, right? So I went, got new bulbs. Still happened. And then when I'd leave the house, I'd turn my TV off and my Alexa off, because I don't want the neighbors to listen to it all day long. I came home a couple of times, TV's on. I know I didn't leave the TV on. And then there'd be times I'd come home that the Alexa's playing. And the Alexa's either playing music or is, telling, whatever Alexa, telling a fact or a joke or you know what I mean, playing music. And I'm like, who are you talking to, Alexa? And I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. This is very bizarre. And when the Alexa turned on, the TV was not on. So it wasn't like there was an Alexa commercial and somehow it just kicked in and it, when I'm here, it never happens. Never kicks in. It's fine unless I turn the TV on or talk to Alexa. But so that started happening right when I brought the little baby stroller home. My daughter thought it was awesome at first. She will not go buy it. Although she did buy a creepy little doll at the Goodwill the other a month or two ago and put it in the stroller. And I said, well, that's only making it even creepier.
I was gonna say that is the doll. So the doll that was in the pictures, that didn't come with the pram, that was separate.
Correct. It did not. And we bought that doll at a secondhand store. She bought it with, I don't know if it was her own money or for 50 cents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Half the head's missing. It's a wind up one and does like, I don't know if it's some type of old melody, some type of little piano melody. But it's old and it's broken in my mind. But it will play music on its own. But that's because it's probably not twisted right,
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. Now, she said, Dad, I had to buy that one because it fell off the shelf when I walked by it. And she said, I had to buy it for your creepy little, she said, I had to buy it for your creepy little apartment. And I'm like, great. So we put it in there. Occasionally it plays music. I think it's just because it's broken, but nowadays I admit I don't know anything anymore. So yes, so that's the little press story that I had. So yeah,
that's incredible.
So that's one way to put it. No,
so I'm curious.
Yeah.
You said before, like, you were not really into believing that kind of stuff. Is there something in your life that changed recently that all of a sudden, because these events kind of happened within a few months of each other, right? So did something change
that made me a believer? Yeah.
Well, something that, because it seems like these items are attracted to you a little bit. So is there any major life event that happened to you that maybe started attracting these things to you, or is it just kind of random?
Maybe not as recently, but I have had people say, my best friend / brother passed away a few years ago. And not to dive into that or anything, it was a sudden passing. And we were best friends and buddies and lived together forever. They said, maybe that's him. Just saying he's around,
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, he's not. No, I said, no. I don't know about the scratches. I don't think he was a very kind guy. So he would have never, hurt me like that or harmed me or cause harm. But maybe that's him finally coming out. And it was, again, it was a suicide. It was a sudden passing. Well, obviously, few years back, but nothing as of, well, you know what? I'm new to this apartment. I'm new in this neighborhood. I'm new to this apartment. And so I don't know. I guess I'm more of a agnostic, maybe. Not really an atheist. I believe in karma, spirituality. I think is awesome. Eastern philosophy, Native American philosophy, or culture. I think is awesome. I can dig that. I can get into that. But this, I guess that's the only real humongous changes that have happened to me over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because sometimes people that I talk to have had like a certain event happen in their life, or they've like started going down a new spirituality path or something like that. Usually there's some correlation, but it sounds like I don't think your friend would, like you said, scratch you. That just seems ridiculous.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I do find it interesting that you've had these experiences kind of in a cluster. It seems like maybe you have some sort of like connection, or these items are just like attracted to you. So that's really intriguing.
Yeah. That's interesting that you say that. I'm not. I wish you hadn't, because I don't want to. But well, I'll tell you. And I asked a lot of people, what do I do with this statue? And one person said, burn it. I said, I've seen enough shows to know that I don't think that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Somebody said, bury it. And I said, yeah, all right, I could dig that. But then, I think the vibe, the spirit, whatever, will stick with you. You're just burying the shell, I guess, if you will. Yeah, correct. And I'm like, I've got to find somebody, I'm not going to drop it off at a Goodwill and have somebody else pick it up and have their kids freak out or get harmed from it either. So that's really why I've held on to it for these last few months. And then I'm like, well, what if somebody who knows something more than I do about these items, kind of like, the person that I'm passing it on to, knows what you can use and what you can protect yourself with, like the haunted collector, right?
Right.
How to keep your distance from the items, yet still admire them from a distance.
Yes. And I feel like you can respect the items and whatever is attached to it with, the right attitude and the right tools and things like that. And a lot of people, I don't think, really understand, like a lot of people that were saying bury it or burn it, they don't really understand how that kind of stuff works. So I'm also curious, were you expecting such a, I don't know if positive is the right word to use, but were you expecting that kind of response when you posted the items on the oddity group?
Oh, no, not. I didn't do it as a joke. I just did it and I just joined this Odd and Oddities group and love it. Some cool stuff, right? Not just for sale, just cool stories and cool little pictures and all that stuff that I'm really interested in. It's really up my alley, I guess, if you will. But I said to myself, well, I see people posting really kind of creepy, weird things that maybe I'll put my Madonna up, you know, and within minutes, people are not just interested, but offering money. People wanted to know more, send more pictures. And then there were some that were like, you're full of crap, and this is a scam. Anybody could make those stories up, and I get it. I probably would have been one of those people, a couple months ago before I had these. But obviously I didn't respond. I'm not here to get into an argument, but this is my story. It all started when I got these, and I was very surprised that dozens and dozens and dozens people are still responding.
Mm-hmm.
I already said, listen, I got rid of it, guys. It's gone. People are still responding to it, positive and negative. About the statue, the pram. I've gotten a lot more positives. Like it's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. Where do you live? And I tell them in Wisconsin. Oh, I'm in California. I can't come out there and pick it up. Oh, but it's gorgeous. So I was very surprised. And literally within 2-3 minutes, people were responding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pram, I'll post pictures of the pram in the video after I edit it. But the pram was really, really pretty.
Yeah.
And it just like the woodwork and everything is really neat on it.
And the old leather.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's almost, and it's real leather, for the top, and it moves down and up, and yeah, it's and the old iron wheels,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very, very, I got it for my daughter. I got it so she could put it in her room, maybe just even as an antique kind of. Well, that wasn't happening. She was not keeping that in her room. And then she's like, Dad, why don't you keep it in your room? And then I said, I'm not keeping that in my room either. And so in the living room, right behind me, and that's very cool too.
Well, that's awesome. I so appreciate you coming on and telling these stories, sharing the items and everything. Do you plan on continuing your antique collecting, or has this kind of...
Well, because I've had some bad luck lately. I do love. I love learning the history of items.
Me too.
I think that's probably a lot of, well, I guess I shouldn't assume what others are thinking or doing it for, but I love the finding out where it comes from, who's the creator or the author or the artist, any of that kind of stuff. And what was going on in history at the time? Where did it come from? The South, the East, England, what have you. So I'm absolutely going to continue. If things bump into me, I will not buy them. I won't lie. I will still buy creepy articles because if they look antique, okay. If maybe that's dangerous, maybe that's playing with fire.
I don't think so.
I know I still will. I think that both the items I think are very cool looking, and that's why I got them. Mm-hmm. But things just started happening, and maybe it was just those two. Maybe it was chance. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it was to make me a believer. Maybe it was to open up my eyes and say, "Hey, maybe there's something else." I don't know, but as of now, I'm kind of a believer.
Well, I think that is an excellent way to end the show, because my little tagline at the end of the show is stay curious. And, having experiences like this always, to me, help encourage people and motivate people to, stay curious, keep an open mind, and you never know what might happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, awesome. I so appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
No, I think I wasted 50 minutes of everybody's time.
No, you didn't.
Hopefully, I had, last thing is for the non-believers or the people that even just messaged me on Facebook saying that you're full of crap. My oldest, a couple friends and my oldest son said to me, when I told them about this, they said, well, Dad, you don't just tell them what happened. I said, I'm not going to lie about a thing. I'm not going to exaggerate a thing. I'm going to tell them exactly what happened. And you guys can kind of take it from there. I don't know. Very bizarre things in my opinion.
Well, very, very happy that you have shared this experience, because I think it does kind of provide a learning experience for everybody. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You got it. Anytime.